So I love macro lenses because they just let you get really close in on things and capture the detail that's inherent there. Opens up a whole new world. But I also really like wide angle lenses, especially ultra wides, when you want a big vista, you want to capture a lot in one scene, or you really want to push the background far away when you get close up. But even better is when you combine the two. An ultra wide macro, well, that's what I got here today. This is the Laowa full frame 15mm f4.5 macro. And Laowa is known for making some really interesting manual focus glass. And manual focus is great. I mean, this is a landscape lens or a macro lens, that's fine. But they did actually make a 15mm macro before, and it did not have any connectivity to the camera. I really appreciate that this new version speaks to my camera. So I'm gonna get all the EXIF data, and it's gonna make sure that the stabilizer works appropriately, which is really handy for macro. I'm really excited to play with this brand new lens. I'm gonna take you guys into it. I'm Chris Niccolls, this is PetaPixel. Let's go do some macro. So let's talk about how this lens differs from the older version of it and just the overall handling. So the older 15mm was an f4. This is an f4.5, so we're losing just a touch of light, but otherwise very similar in design, all metal construction. It's got this really nice pedal-shaped hood on here, which is on there quite securely. I don't feel like that's gonna slip off anytime soon. It's a short throw manual focus ring, very smooth. I mean, really nicely machined. And otherwise, we just have a USB micro A port here on the side of the lens for doing firmware updates and stuff like that. So the older lens had an aperture ring. This is dispensing with that. I'm just controlling everything electronically through the camera, which is fine. And I think a lot of the loss that we have here as far as controls and buttons comes down to the fact that this is also quite a bit more affordable. This is only $399, which is fantastic. The lens itself weighs about 308 grams. That's just like a sixth of a knock. 62mm filter threads are on the front. I mean, this is a very simple, straightforward lens, but it still does 1 to 2 macro life-size reproduction shots. So I wouldn't call this like a macro lens, but I can certainly get in there quite close, bring something up, get a lot of detail, and really push that background far away. Now, what mount you get this camera for really does change the way it behaves. So I want to talk about that next because this is important. The original 15mm macro was a DSLR lens formula, and this is as well. It's just been modified to then fit with the closer flange back that you would get with mirrorless cameras. Also, depending on what lens mount you actually put it on will determine if you get some automatic features or not. So, for example, Sony E mount, Nikon Z mount, Canon EF mount, interestingly enough, you actually get automatic connection with the apertures. I control it with the body. But if I use it on things like Canon RF mount or Nikon F mount, for example, then I'm not going to get that connectivity. I'm going to actually have an aperture ring here to change my aperture physically instead. So as I mentioned, we got this yucky rainy day. It could pour on us at any moment, but this is the day we have to shoot, and we're going to get some macro here. And on such a dim day like today, especially for shooting more shaded areas like under the underbrush and stuff like this, it's nice to have supplementary lighting. Now, yes, electronic flash is absolutely a great way to go, but I don't need to freeze the action that much here. What I'm going to use here instead is an LED light, because then I can actually visualize where the light is falling on my subjects, and that can be really handy with flowers. I've got all of these different crevices and angles and shadows being formed. I really like that I can just aim this and point it and get the light where I need it. This is the L60B. It gives me plenty of power to add that supplemental lighting here, so I can add and get better exposures, faster shutter speeds to freeze that action. I also like that I can dim it if I want. I can bring this exposure up and down as I need to, but I can also change the color, so I can go cold or I can go warm, as you can see there. And that's really nice too if I just want to play with my white balance, leave it in daylight, and then change this just to add like that nice hint of warmth if I want it, or accentuate some of the colors of the flowers. I also like that you can get this accessory handle, so I can aim it and point it naturally out in the field. It's got these little metal legs, so if I put it down on something, it's not going to flop over. That's really nice. Just take Sony NPF batteries. You can get various powers, put 2 of those in there, and I can get lots of life out in the field. Totally portable. So if you want to look for something like this, maybe you're a small-time creator that just wants to do some video work, or if you're doing like studio portraits, just tight in work, this also works great. Or take it out in the field and add that supplementary light you need. This is a fantastic way to go. Check it out at fjwestcott.com or click the link in the description below. We love these Westcott lights. They are PetaPixel's preferred lighting partner. So the beauty of a lens like this is just how versatile it is, because not only are we getting a macro lens we can do some nice close-ups with, but also just a 15mm wide angle at an affordable price. I mean, this gives you that wide angle perspective, you know, lots in the scene. It's a really fun lens to have, and if you're heading out for the day and you want to take some shots of this lovely garden and then go right into the flowers, this is like an ideal setup for this kind of stuff. But if you're going to get an ultra wide angle lens like this, is it going to be sharp for landscapes? Okay, well, let's take a look at our test charts here. So first off, looking at the center shooting wide open at f4.5, there's actually quite a bit of detail. I was impressed. I mean, contrast is not bad. It's a little bit lighter, but when you stop down to f8, a little bit of that contrast comes back. But I was already very happy with the detail. When we get to the corners here at f4.5, you can see it gets a little smudgy, little low contrast, some vignetting. When we stop down to f8, that helps out a little bit. So I would say, look, this is not going to compete with like a Sony G Master lens for sharpness, not at all. But if I'm shooting landscapes where I'm manually focusing carefully, I'm stopping down the aperture to f8 or f11, it's going to do a perfectly fine job from center to corner. So let's talk about flare next. I mean, here's our little hood here. I've taken it off though because I don't want to block light even when I'm getting extremely close to subjects. But it is important to keep on if you're shooting flare tests, because this lens does have some issues with flare. Not going to get much of it on a day like today, unfortunately, but luckily we already did tests ahead of time, and here's what we found. So ghosting isn't too bad, but you actually get classic flare, just that washed out area of exposure where the light, you know, the corner opposite the bright light just kind of gets this white washed out kind of look. And that's unfortunate. I mean, stopping down helps a little bit, but you got to watch out for that. Otherwise, ghosting's not too bad. But another thing that I want to talk about is Sunstars. And I know you guys love it when I talk about Sunstars, but it's actually very important to talk about on this lens, because this is a 5-bladed aperture. So your specular highlights are going to look like little pentagrams all over the place. And on top of that, if you do Sunstar shots, you know, you're going to get 10-point stars. And as you can see here, they're actually quite dramatic looking. They start getting pretty dramatic around f10 or so, and the higher up you go, this thing goes to f32, the more dramatic they get. So it's an interesting aspect of this lens for sure. So dramatic Sunstars are one thing, but what is this going to do to our bokeh? Well, as I mentioned, what you're going to get for specular highlights is pentagonal shapes, and as fun as they can be, I mean, they kind of have an old world charm to them, a little bit of character. They don't necessarily look smooth and they don't blend in very naturally, so they tend to stand out and be a little bit distracting. Now, on top of that, the overall bokeh is also a little bit harsh. So your backgrounds tend to be quite busy, unfortunately, and that can really, again, draw the eye away from your subject and lead you down to the background where you might not want the viewer to go. I mean, overall, the bokeh on this lens is not going to be a strong suit. It's got character, and if you dig the look with specular highlights, that'll be fun, but otherwise I would say, I don't know, I would probably stop down the lens a little bit in a lot of cases and just try to get a little bit more depth of field. So like a lot of Laowa lenses, this new 15mm f4.5 macro has some quirks to it, and it's got some character to it, and it even depends what lens mount you buy it for, how it's going to function. So I mean, I know it's always a little bit confusing, and hopefully this has cleared things up. So who should get this lens? I mean, videographers, you might really dig, again, that polygonal shape to the bokeh, and you might really like the character, but this thing breathes like crazy. Just keep that in mind. I mean, if you're doing a focus pull, this thing just like zooms. It's not a fixed prime lens. This is a zoom lens when it comes to manual focusing. And other things about this lens, like, look, it's sharp enough, but it has issues with flare, and it's got quirks with bokeh, and you know, sometimes things look a little bit dreamy overall, and that could be a really neat effect. But the best part, it's quite affordable, and so that might have a lot of appeal for you. And of course, another cool thing about Laowa is they tend to make these fun, interesting lenses and focal ranges or wide angle macros that a lot of the OEM manufacturers just don't seem interested in touching. So if you want a fun little lens, a manual focus thing to go play around with and get some cool close-ups and really exaggerated perspective, this might be a good choice for you. Leave your comments below, let us know what you think. We always love to see that feedback. And check out the PetaPixel podcast. It's on this exact same channel, or you can listen to it on all your favorite podcasting apps. Just search for PetaPixel. Do check out our merch store as well. We got great stuff on there. Lots of cool shirts, lots of cool merch. You can definitely get some fun gear there. And if you sign up for a PetaPixel.com membership, you get 25% off the merch store. $3 a month, $30 a year, and you can peruse PetaPixel.com, see all the great articles ads free. And there's also the sample gallery. So all the shots that we take that you want to see on all the gear that we're reviewing, you can download and pixel peep those to your heart's content. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you soon with more on PetaPixel.